Alright folks, quick lesson on how to make some kombucha. So first you're going to need your kombucha. I already have two 1 gallon jars fermenting. They've been fermenting for, I'd say, I don't know, maybe 14 days or so. Scobies are already in there. I had these scobies for a long time now, so that's all set. What we are going to do is just bottle some stuff. So I have some frozen raspberries, frozen blueberries, 1 lemon, some ginger. What we're going to do is I'm going to cut some ginger up and chop that all up nice. Mix that with some lemon and some raspberries, so that'll be a ginger, raspberry, lemon kombucha to bottle it. And then the other one will just be blueberry, ginger. And you're also going to need some pots here to cook our tea in, as well as however many bottles you're going to bottle. I usually do 6 bottles of one flavor, 6 bottles of a different flavor. You know, and that's how we get it going. So, alright, let's get started. Alright, chopped up our ginger, lemon, got that all chopped up, lemon split. What I do, I just microwave these frozen fruits. If you got fresh stuff, great. If not, frozen stuff works just fine. You also need a blender. I didn't say that before, but yeah, make sure you have a blender. So you got to blend all the ginger with our fruit, make a puree out of it, put it through the sieve here, get all the seeds and gunk out of it, so we can add it to our jars. Another thing I left out, if you don't drink kombucha, you probably should start. Nice healthy drink, it's good for you. Alright, pro tip. I mix my ginger right in there before I put it in the blender. Let it sit for a minute. Same with my blueberries. Chopped up ginger, let it sit in there for a little bit. I also squeeze the lemon juice out of 1 lemon into this bowl. One more thing is, see, I use it's a black tea, green tea mix for my kombucha. I don't know, it's what I like the flavor of, so I can't complain. Never tried anything different, but this black tea, green tea mix seems to work great. Alright, quick nutrition fact info. So, roughly one of these bottles here, you know, it's got 50 calories, fat 0 grams, sodium 10 milligrams, total carbs 12, 0 protein. So you figure the only thing that's really in there is the black tea, the green tea, the raspberry juice, lemon juice, fresh ginger, and that's about it. So, and then the fermented tea. So that's that. Now I'm going to grind this up in the blender, get it going. Have the good old-fashioned paper towel top to my blender because the kids seem to make smoothies and I don't know where anything goes, but alright, that's it. And then you're going to want that as ground up as possible, because trust me, one time I just put this itself into my bottles without putting it through the sieve first, and it already leaves so much chunky stuff in your bottles and your bottle kombucha as it is, that you want every little bit of particle and every seed and every little chunk out of there. So that's why you grind it up fine, and then you put it through the sieve like this. It's still thick, so I just kind of help it smush it through with the spoon to get all that juice out of there, because that's what we want in our bottle, none of the chunks, just the juice. So you always got to give it a little bit of help. And I'll keep doing that until it's real thick of a paste. And I always just keep another little dish here that I throw the fruit paste into after I extract all the juice out of it. Yeah, your best bet's just to keep working it around to get every last drop. You'll know when it's dry like a puree paste. Then I throw it in that little container, just add some more. Because for 6 bottles, you only need a couple tablespoons per bottle. That's going to give you tons of flavor. So I'm going to keep working on this. I'll get all the raspberry lemon flavor out, then I'll go work on the blueberry. Pure raspberry lemon ginger goodness. See how there's no chunks, it's just pure liquid. That's what we want to add into our bottles. And don't get me wrong, I'm no kombucha expert. I've only been brewing it for maybe 9 months now. I tried a few different flavors, but raspberry lemon ginger and the blueberry ginger are my 2 favorites. So now let's get to the blueberry. I don't even clean that raspberry and lemon ginger flavor out of there because, you know, it can't hurt to give some of that flavor into this blueberry ginger. So here we go. We'll blend that up and work on that now. Here's that paste I was telling you about. So I extracted all the juice, such as raspberry, lemon, and ginger particles. I mean, you could probably do something with it, but I don't. I just toss it. Alright, got my blueberry ginger puree. Now it's time to bottle it up. Alright, now this isn't no, measured nothing. I just take a spoonful, drop it in there. Click your little funnel, move to the next bottle. Another thick spoonful. Now I use recycled bottles. I have 6 recycled bottles that I've remembered to save. I bought these bottles here, these old Grolsch bottles, which work really nice because they have sealed tops. But if you just get some kombucha bottles that have nice tops, they're glass so you can reuse them. Make sure you clean them good every time. And you could reuse them. You can use Star Sand, really clean them out good. Like same stuff you use when you're brewing your own beer. I use that stuff to sanitize my bottles when I used to bottle beer before I started kegging beer. So that's what I use to keep these bottles clean. So now that I gave a spoonful to each of these bottles, I'll go back through and just add the rest of this puree. Add a little bit of extra flavor, a little bit of extra sugars to the kombucha. So that's it for the blueberries. Now we're just going to do the exact same thing with the raspberry mixture. 1 nice spoonful in each bottle. And if there's extra, we'll go back through. You just don't want to use too much, that's for sure. I wouldn't recommend doing 2 full tablespoons in each bottle, because once you add the fermented tea to it, it will thicken up and kind of create its own little mini SCOBY inside of it, and it'll start getting a little weird. You'll see when I show you later on in the video. I always stir the bottles up, to stir the the little floaties that are in the bottom, which is all good stuff for you. Okay. Alright. Now these are your SCOBYs here. I originally bought one on Amazon and brewed a bunch of times with it, and then It grows a baby SCOBY every time. So and eventually it keeps getting thicker and thicker. So I already went through it. I cut them in half once they start getting too thick. So like this one here, this one seems to be getting on that thick side, so I'll have to cut it in half eventually, but for now, let's get them into the containers. That one's getting like hockey puck size, so maybe I'll cut that one before I add it, cut it in half. So now we just have our kombucha. Oh, this still has baby SCOBY in there. So we'll toss that into that jar. Now, I stir it up, get all them weird particles at the bottom. Kind of like an apple cider vinegar, you got the mother. That's all your good live organisms and stuff in there that you want to add. See, no, I didn't even add any fruit to this. It's already starting to seem a little sugary. Now you can always grab, with black tea, you leave black particles in there. But, I mean, if it doesn't matter to you, it doesn't matter. But if it does look weird and gross, I mean, you could take it and peel off the black pieces, things like that. It ain't like how when you brew beer, you gotta be real particular, and you can't get any type of bacteria in there. You don't want anything there, because it'll affect the flavor, but you can actually touch this stuff with your hands, as long as your hands are clean and everything else. I'm not gonna worry about too much. Alright, so I don't bottle on the counter, it makes a mess. Let's move over to the sink. One thing I did forget to mention is you always want to save some of your original kombucha liquid, your fermented tea, and put it over here with your SCOBYs. See, I always bottle, and after I do 6 bottles, there's some left. Then I add that to each container, which is the SCOBY. Because when you brew your new tea, which I'll show you when we're done with this, you always want to have some of this original liquid here. Original fermented tea mixed with that. You don't want to leave that out. It's like starter tea for your brew. Alright, let's get started. So I already stirred these all up. So now I just go through it. Now I don't fill them up till they overflow, because it's usually a little bubbly. So I get it up to the top, and I'll come back and top them all off. Like I said, there's always some left in these gallon jars that I add to my existing SCOBY. And like I said, as these bottles ferment, each one of them is going to grow its own little SCOBY again. So if you're worried about that, you can always just, filter it out when you pour a glass. Me, I don't care. I just chew it up like it's a little gummy candy and eat it. They're not bad for you. I don't know if they're healthy for you or not, but I did read stories that some people actually make jerky out of them. So they're definitely not bad for you. I don't know if I'd make jerky out of them. I'm not there yet. I just, like I said, I'll cut these SCOBYs in half and just, if I had someone that wanted it, I'd give it to them. Okay, see, so I bottled it, and I still have this much left in my jar. A bunch of floaties in there too. So now I'll go through, I'll top off these, because you don't want to leave much room. You want to fill it up as much as possible. So I always fill it up right to the head of the bottle. You want some space, but just not much space. You could already see how that fruit puree already thickened it up in there, and it's kind of getting thick. But as a week goes past, week, 2 weeks, all that will settle on the bottom. That'll be perfect. Alright, so I still have this much left. Let's see, I'll take one of my existing SCOBYs. Just Dump it right in there. So now I already have my SCOBY and a starter tea for the next batch. Alright, now I just got to bottle these blueberry flavored ones and we'll go to the next step. Now another thing I forgot to point out is kombucha was, I don't know, I guess invented 1,000 years, 1,500 years ago or something like that. And they didn't necessarily use fruit, they just drink it straight, just your fermented tea. You could drink it like that. I just like to mix it with the fruit to give it that little bit of sweetness. And what the fruit actually does as well is makes it more carbonated. So it's almost like drinking a soda. It's all in its perfect prime. It's got the perfect carbonation. Now when you buy them, it's forced carbonated. So they're more like the consistency of a champagne. See, I let them carbonate themselves. Usually takes about a week or so in the basement. And they taste great, and it's just as bubbly as a soda. So, but you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to add fruit. You can go straight with just your regular raw, sweet tea that's fermented. Really all it is. But you don't want to let it ferment too long, because the longer it sits, the more vinegary it will taste. So that's where you got to know when to cut it. Alright, like I told you, I cut this SCOBY in half, so I still have one in there. I was getting a little thick. So this is the old existing SCOBY, the oldest part of it. Keep the youngest in there to keep it fresh. And if I had a friend, I mean, a SCOBY like this, I don't know, I think I buy them on Amazon for maybe $10. Comes in a little liquid starter kit, and that's how you could start your brewing. So that's what I originally started with. I ordered a kombucha, a SCOBY puck in a package with starter, and that's how I started this whole operation. So that's all you need. Alright, now you want to wash your jugs out, your 1 gallon jugs. Wash them out really good. After I wash them out good, I fill them up with some really hot water. Just let them sit there while I do the next batch of tea, and then I'll show you what to do next. Oh yeah, quick tip. Keep cheesecloth over your SCOBY jars. I mean, if it's in the middle of winter, you don't got to really worry about it. But if there's fruit flies, they seem to really attract to, you know, these SCOBYs and the kombucha, probably because it has that cider vinegar type of flavor. So just keep them covered up if you don't want bugs in your beverage. Alright, next up, take a pot, 2 cups of water in it. I have 2 pots going on with both 2 cups of water. Bring it to a boil. Once we bring it to a boil, that's when we're going to add our green tea, black tea blend, loose leaf blend, and let that steep for 10 minutes, but let's get this boiling. Alright, while you're bringing that to a boil, now's a good time to, I already washed all my bottles off in case you spill a little of the old kombucha on it as you were filling it up. I always give them a little shake like this to stir that puree up from the bottom. I do that with every single one of these bottles, and then I go set them down in my basement, because if you leave them out in the heat, if it's summertime, they'll ferment too quickly, in my opinion. Like I said, I'm no expert, it's just what I do. You could do what you want to do, but I put them in my basement, let them sit down there, and I'll start drinking them after, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. I'll pop one, drink it, and as they start getting more and more carbonated, once they're really carbonated, and you pop it and they start squirting all over the place, that's when I'll put them in the refrigerator. Because when you put it in the refrigerator, that will slow the carbonation down, stop it right where it's at, kind of like when you add your vinegar to a horseradish. Alright, I've had both of these pots boiling. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of this loose leaf black and green tea mixture. Got 1, 2. 1, 2. Give that a stir. We'll stir. Alright, Alright, now we're going to steep that for 10 minutes. Alright, 10 minutes is up, I'll let you know. Alright, so my loose leaf tea is now steeped for 10 minutes. So I'm going to add it to the jar. So what I use is one of these. It's perfect size because when you dump it in here, any leaves that fall through it catches. And it's perfect for 2 steeped cups of tea. You just push it right on the lid here. And it'll all come through in your jug. Wow, it keeps your kombucha from getting any of the tea leaves in there. So it's got a screen in it and everything. There we go. So that is 2 cups of hot green black tea mixture. Let's do the same with this one. Right in there. Now if you don't have one of these tea steeping contraptions, you just have to use like your lid to your pot, keep all the tea in there so it doesn't go into the jug. But these work great. Okay, so there we go. That is that. Another 2 cups of hot green black tea mixture. So now what you're going to do is you're just going to add a cup of sugar. Get a cup of sugar, dump it into the tea mixture. So you take that, dump 1 cup right in there. Then you're going to fill the rest up with cold water. Right to about here, because you need room for your SCOBY. So you're going to bring it up to about here. Leave room for your SCOBY and your starter brew in there as well. You want to fill it up with cold water. Like I said, this is already piping hot. You want to fill it up with cold water to bring the temperature way down. Then we'll add our SCOBY in there. And make sure we have cold water. I'm just going to fill these up. Now I put 1 cup of granulated sugar, your regular typical sugar. You could use brown sugar, you can use a lot of stuff. You just don't want to use that fake stuff. You know, no stevia or whatever the other aspartame type of fake sugars are. Just use real sugar, 1 cup per 1 gallon. And at this point, that one's pretty full, I'll move to this one. And all it is right now is sweet tea. You got 1 cup of sugar, 2 cups of hot steep tea. You're filling the rest up with water, so now you got a gallon of water added to that. And all it is this sweet green black tea mixture. And that's exactly what the SCOBY likes. And SCOBY, I don't know if I mentioned this before, stands for Symbiotic Culture of Yeast and Bacteria. It's a living organism. Billions of organisms, I should say, that make up the matter of that SCOBY puck. Alright, so we got that. Stir up the sugar at the bottom, get it nice and stirred up, just like you're making a regular batch of your typical sweet tea. Like I said, I use cold water, so mixing that with that hot tea cooled it way down. Stir it up good. You don't want to have, you know, tons of bubbles or nothing in there to affect it, because we're trying not to have an overflow type of situation here. So now we can get our SCOBYs over here. Take my cheesecloth off the top of it. Okay, so take your SCOBY mix, your actual SCOBY itself. Drop it right down in there. Now they do their own thing. They might float, they might sink, you know, they might sink for a few days and then float. It's all cool. They do whatever they want, so don't even have to worry about it. So now that was all stirred up, now we have our starter, which is our old kombucha. We'll just top that off. Get it close to the lid as you want. You don't want much air. We'll do the same with this one. Top that off, top that off. We still have a little bit left. See, still have a little bit left. Little floaties in there. Can't let that go to waste though, so put that in a measuring cup that we use for water or some here. There we go. And this is your fermented tea from last batch. Cheers. Not bad. Still has that sweet tea flavor. It doesn't taste all cider vinegary, so it's actually pretty good. Okay, so now what we want to do is cover this up with cheesecloth and put it away. That's all you gotta do. So what I do is I'll take them out with that. And my cheesecloth here. I just take it, fold it a couple times. You want to make sure there's not fuzzies and stuff dangling off these things, so make sure you shake it off. I already did that prior. Put it right over the top just like that. Get yourself a rubber band over the top just like that. So now all the gases can escape. SCOBY can eat the sugars, digest as byproduct, and turn this into a nice kombucha. Like I said, it'll be about 12 days. Maybe more like 15 days, I should say. So I'll give it 3 days before I start drinking the bottles. Give it about 3 days, start drinking the bottles, and then I just brewed 12 bottles. So once I'm all done with that, it's ready to start this process all over again. So I got a constant cycle with 2 gallons, 6 bottles, and it cost me next to nothing to make. When you're buying it at the store, they're $4 a pop, so you're saving, pretty good pennies. So like, comment, subscribe, whatever. Want to give me some tips? That'd be appreciated. Like I said, I'm no pro. I just been doing it. This is the way I do it. Might not be the right way, but it's my way. It seems to work. Everyone seems to enjoy it when I do share bottles, which is not often because it is so good. I only have a 12 pack.